Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Growth and Excellence, Building a Foundation for Next Generation Healthcare, a Workday webinar with Day 9 and Centegra Health Systems. My name is Adam Kaufman, and I am the Strategic Healthcare Industry Advisor at Workday. I will be moderating today's event, including taking questions at the end of this webinar. For those of you who are new to Workday, we are the cloud leader for financials, supply chain, and human resources. Healthcare is a strategic priority for Workday. We recognize that healthcare providers are facing an onslaught of change driven by healthcare reform, industry consolidation, new business models to deliver care, and a battle for talent. Workday's platform solution is delivered in the cloud on a single code line and helps healthcare institutions face and address the challenges of today and tomorrow. Workday is fortunate to have welcomed many healthcare providers across the continuum of care to our customer base, including large IDNs, academic medical centers and research institutions, regional, community, and teaching hospitals, long-term care facilities, urgent care clinics, home care, hospice, and healthcare staffing institutions. We are very excited to discuss the experiences of one of our wonderful customers today, Centegra Health Systems. With me today is Bernie Shapansky, Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Centegra Health Systems, and Mike Wright, Senior Vice President, Go-to-Market for Day 9. During today's webinar, Bernie and Mike will discuss the benefits of moving to Workday and some of the challenges that Centegra faced prior to making the switch. I encourage you to submit questions at all times through the QA box at the bottom of your screen. Centegra and Day 9 will answer questions at the end of the presentation. And with that, I will hand it over to Mike Wright from Day 9.
Thanks, Adam. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Also my pleasure to be on the webinar this morning. I'd like to go through some quick introductions and then clear the agenda, and then we'll get started. So as Adam mentioned, my name is Mike Wright. I lead our go-to-market team for Day 9, which includes our strategy, our marketing and sales organizations, and strategic solutions, including our industry focus. We'll talk a little bit further on about our healthcare practice at Day 9. Adam mentioned, as he's kicked off here, Adam is the Strategic Healthcare Industry Advisor for Workday. He focuses on setting direction for this really strategic and important vertical. In his role, he works to identify the needs of prospective customers, the value that they've achieved and hope to achieve, and to kind of act as a bridge between the product development team at Workday and the solution roadmap for the healthcare industry. What he doesn't tell you is he's a graduate with multiple degrees from Northwestern University, so he's a wildcat. It's also my pleasure to introduce Bernie Shapansky. As Adam mentioned, she's the Senior Vice President of HR for Centegra Health Systems, a great customer of both Day 9 and Workday. We're pleased to have you join us, Bernie. She leads the strategic HR planning and development at Centegra, working to foster an engaged workforce of over 4,000 associates, and serves as a strategic advisor to senior leadership. She joined Centegra in 2003 as a Director of Human Resources. Prior to that, she's worked in various leadership roles in the industry with Central DuPage Health and McNeil Health Network. Bernie has a Bachelor of Science from the University of Dayton, so she's a flyer, and a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Notre Dame. So I guess that also makes her a Fighting Irish. So she's board member of the McHenry County Workforce Investment Board and Leadership, Greater McHenry County. So we're really pleased to have you with us today, Adam and Bernie. As far as our agenda goes, we've gone through intros. Bernie will give us a little bit of about Centegra Health Systems, and then we'll focus more on the project and why Workday and Day 9 were chosen. But she's also going to share their business drivers, the selection process, the solution, talk about change management and go-live adoption and lessons learned and next steps in their journey as they continue to evolve their use of and leverage of Workday. Like I said, then I'll do a quick Day 9 healthcare practice update, and then we'll jump right into Q&A, which Adam will facilitate. And I've asked Ravi Joshi from Day 9 to join the Q&A process. He's our healthcare practice lead at Day 9, so he'll be available to answer any questions you might have about Day 9's practice at the Q&A session. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Bernie and turn it over to her.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. I'm delighted to present our journey with Workday and Day 9. So let me tell you a little bit about Centegra Health Systems. We have over 4,000 associates, or we call them associates employees, and growing, with over 500 volunteers. We have been recognized as a magnet, as a system, and that was the first recognition in Illinois to be recognized as a magnet as a system. We offer a wide variety of counties, serving the counties of McHenry and Kane County. We're located in the northern suburbs of Chicago. We have 3 hospitals in the county, a total of 413 beds. Last Tuesday, we opened up our 3rd hospital, which is Centegra Hospital Huntley, which is now in a new market area for us. It is not a replacement hospital. So we started on our journey to staff those 128 beds starting last year, actually. And we've welcomed over 500 staff to the Huntley Hospital. The Huntley campus is very innovative. It also has a media care center, fitness center, and also a medical office building as well. And we're about halfway the construction in another medical office building. We have multiple physician care offices. We also have a breast center, a cancer center, and a total of over 30 locations within the county. So with this tremendous growth, with the opening of Huntley Hospital, and we've also acquired a number of physician practices and rehab practices, we decided to identify and review our HR system, HR and payroll system. So some of our key business drivers. Technology was definitely end of life for our Infor Infinium system, which was created and installed in 1997. So we had a platform for the future. We really wanted to have a rapid implementation. Due to the opening of Huntley Hospital in August, we basically had about 7 months to get that implementation going. We already had employee self-service, so that was something that was familiar to our associates, but we did not have manager self-service. We really wanted to provide our leaders with information about their business. So we were using Infor Infinium since the late 90s, as I said, and with many healthcare systems, the focus is really on the patient care. However, when we knew that Infinium was kind of on the end of life for that, we knew that we wanted to move forward and stop utilizing the Excel and Access databases and really utilize a system that was going to take us into the future. So as I mentioned, we're in the growth stage. The new hospital right now has about 500, but growing up to almost 1,000 associates. So we'll probably be beyond 5,000 in a year's time. We also were looking at efficiencies. What were some of the process improvements that we needed to go from a transactional component to really a transformational? And we had 500 associates that we were welcoming, so the faster onboarding process was very key for us. With these key business drivers, we were moving forward with the selection process and focused in on 3 components. Really, the development of the business case. Obviously, the Huntley Hospital was key to that decision and that business case, as well as the technology. The 1997 was really at the end of the life cycle there. Fortunately, I had a VP of IT who actually installed Infinium back in 1997, and so she had many promotions throughout the organization and moved up to the VP of IT, so she knew the limitations and was very supportive of the investment in human resources. Along with our IT outsource solution, which is Dell Services, partnered to identify really a short list, and then we wanted to identify what those business needs were as well. So in October, we decided that we wanted to move forward with Workday, realizing that we had a very aggressive time frame. We wanted to limit it to the core HCM, which included benefits, absence, onboarding, and then obviously the payroll system. At that same time, we explored the different partnerships, the implementation partnerships, and looked at day 9 and wanted to have them assist us with obviously the deployment of the HCM, the payroll. We had over 30 integrations that we were maintaining, as well as change management expertise. That was very key when we were looking at different vendors to really get us started on change management. Many times change management is an afterthought. So we wanted to make sure that they had expertise there, and I'll tell you a little bit about their Jumpstart program. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that we had support, their ongoing support, and we are currently utilizing them for phase 2 as well, and for maintenance. So why Workday? We wanted to focus in on a modern platform. It was key for us to look at it from the future, and cloud technology was our future. We wanted to reduce the reliance on IT resources. Because the system is configurable, we were able to do that. It was important for us also to look at modules that were designed to work together versus add-ons. And as we were evaluating different systems, that was important to us. Our reduction of the manual processes, as I mentioned, we were utilizing employee self-service, but we're not utilizing manager self-service. So we were in the day of paper, and many changes, many phone calls back to the managers for completion of that paperwork. We also were focusing in on the business processes. What Workday was able to provide us is a status of exactly where do we stand in the business process. So we're able to look at the inboxes and how processes are moving through the system, and that was really key for us as well. Another component was really the access to data. We wanted to provide our leaders the data 24/7 to provide them the information they needed to move their business forward. We also were very intrigued with the mobile capability as well. The dashboards that Workday currently uses with analytics was key for us as well. We began to build those dashboards actually before go live, and we're in the process of implementing those as well. And as a magnet organization about to go through redesignation, we heard loud and clear from our nursing departments that we wanted to have a centralized database for licenses and certifications. So we're in the process. We've already uploaded the licenses, and we're in the process of loading up the certifications. So that process of providing that information to nursing was key, and we're about to provide that service to them. And then also self-service. It was key for us to go down the journey and actually implement manager self-service. And because it was healthcare specific, we were very successful in launching that implementation. And then we were also launching the mobile workforce. So a few days after we went live, we launched the mobile workforce, and we're pleased with that implementation as well. So we felt confident with our choice of Workday, and now we needed an implementation partner. So why Day 9? Through our interviews with Day 9, we identified that they really had a very strong relationship with Workday. They're in the same Chicago office, either a floor above or below Workday, and they also had clearly a very deep understanding of Workday. And they had a seasoned staff, and that was very important for us to consider. They've also worked with many large clients like CHI, and they were also a local team, which was going to impact our travel expenses, and we were preferring to have people that were local versus offshore. And through the interview process and really trying to figure out how many integrations do we have and getting the details of what we really needed, we wanted to make sure that it was a good match. So they did a very detailed evaluation with us, and our integrations, we decided that they really had a clear understanding of what it was going to take. And that really resulted in only one change order. And that was important for us, obviously from a budgetary perspective as well. So we had a clear understanding, or they had a clear understanding of our integrations and what it was going to take. They also were very realistic of what we were going to be able to accomplish within 7 months. Their integrations team was very knowledgeable and had gone through many of the integrations that we already had in place. They were top-notch. And obviously we needed to hit that July 1st deadline without question because the hospital was opening on August 9th. So that was a non-negotiable, and it was a good partnership. We both realized that we needed to make decisions quickly, and that was truly a partnership, and the communication lines were there to be able to make to go live on July 1st. So we actually signed both the Workday and Day 9 contracts on October 23rd of 2015. The implementation, as I said, began in November of 2015, and then we went live July 1st. Our kickoff was December 1st, and what made this aggressive timeline actually realistic was because Workday had already assigned best practice or best business processes to create and reduce that implementation time. So some of the things that we considered is obviously the team, not only from the Day 9 perspective, but also the dedicated HR team. We wanted to make sure that we had not only a staffing component to keep the progress going with Huntley Hospital, but we also needed to move ahead with the Workday process. So our onboarding resource for the hospital was actually pulled into the Workday. So we didn't identify that early on. We actually realized that probably a month into it that she was going to be pulled into that. So we backfilled with a temporary recruiter so that she can assist with the onboarding process. The ideal partner, quickly we needed to identify what were some of the business needs and also how were we going to work together. And communication was key. We were constantly in communication with each other. The knowledge transfer was important. Halfway through the process, we started to, or they started to hand off things to HR as well as IT, and really providing that knowledge transfer to that team, which now is going to maintain that system. And as I said, change management was key. We utilized Day 9's Jumpstart program, and it was truly a lifesaver. As I said many times, you think of change management as an afterthought, and I think it really did help us in the success of our implementation. So we used Jumpstart program as a foundation. That included several meetings to talk about our stakeholders, identifying who do we need to communicate to, what are some of the decisions that we need to communicate to what groups. We also wanted to identify for those stakeholders what is changing. We wanted to look at what's in it for me along the way. We wanted to tease and reveal through this process to get people acclimated both from a leadership perspective as well as an associate perspective. And then we wanted to get them on the bandwagon as well. It was a very robust communication plan, and it was in partnership with Day 9 that we created the project plan as well. The artifact library were really samples that we utilized through this process in creating the training curriculum as well. So much of the things that we needed to really build that change management process was provided to us through Day 9. So with the team that I had, we actually had 2-day off-site meetings to revise the entire content. So whether that be HR, and whether it be benefits, compensation, or onboarding, or the payroll process. The teams came together. They were divvied up their sections to look at what needed to be revised and what that content was going to look like as a Centegra product. So that helped us really move forward. So after the 2 days, we really had a very solid change management process. Through that, we actually started to tweak some of the times, the dates. We quickly identified, well, do we really need all those stakeholders in place? And through the decisions that we made, we actually eliminated some of those stakeholders from the context of communication and so forth. And then from that point on, we actually did weekly check-ins. And that started with leadership on a monthly basis. I was constantly presenting information about Workday, whether it be through video that Workday provided or that Day 9 provided us, or it was a communication piece and a demo that we were going to provide, or a timeline of this is the information that's going to flow to your associates. In addition to that, we actually created ambassadors to assist us with the communication and really to provide us feedback to incorporate into future communication. And we also did launch afterwards another ambassador meeting to really get the feedback of how is Workday working for the associates. We also created a roadshow for our associates, and it was really highlighting the features of Workday. So it was one-on-one time in the cafeterias wherever the associates were passing by and really providing them a demo and also identifying the different features of Workday. Gave them hands-on view of what they were going to experience starting July 1st. And we actively communicated the changes to the associates of what needed to happen and how we were going to meet the needs of the associates. So when we went live on Friday, July 1st, right before the 4th of July weekend, and we also had a very short payroll period for that week, our adoption rate was very, definitely was above the expectations that we had. So how did we do that first week? So as you will see, our business processes completed on time exceeded our goal. I think our communication and our training to both the leaders and the associates was very thorough, and again, it was due to the implementation of our change management process. Our actual was 97%. And then the ratio of successful business process outcomes was 76%, and our goal was just at 70%. And then also the number of individuals that signed on that first week was 70%. Because it was a holiday, realizing that it was a holiday weekend, we're not sure if they were going to sign in. But we encouraged them through a process, and that's that fourth bullet, of updating their emergency contact. We did not carry anything over from Infinium on the emergency contact, and we wanted them to become familiar with it. So we sent out a task on that first day, July 1st, to update their emergency contact. And that was very successful. We obviously had 55% that went in and changed and updated their emergency contact information. That following week, we started town hall meetings, or we call them open forums, and obviously continued to increase that percentage. So as you can see, we exceeded our goals for the first week. So what are some of the lessons learned that we had through this process? I believe with any implementation, integrations are always the most challenging. So we quickly identified that we needed a dedicated IT resource for integrations. And that started with the training process. If I had to do it all over again, I would get them into training far sooner than later, and also identifying what that skill mix was. We had identified that some of our HRIS individuals within human resources could potentially help out with the integrations. And probably shortly into a month after we started the integration, realized that it was not their expertise. So we ended up having to identify IT resources that could pick up that integration as we move forward. And another lessons learned with regards to integration is the budget of integrations. We had not budgeted any of the cost associated with some of the integrations. So those were some of the lessons learned. Thankfully, we were on budget as a project, and we had enough cushion within the budget to be able to do that. Another learning was that we had started, again, because of the aggressive timeline, had started to go into discovery mode. And unfortunately, there was a staff member and an HR team member that needed to go through training as well. So that overlapped with the discovery piece. So he was in training and then all of a sudden had to go into discovery, or wasn't part of the discovery process, just hit the tail end of discovery. So again, a lessons learned there is really to look at the resources and what do you need and the dedication of that staff to be able to do that project. And because of the aggressiveness of the project, we ended up pulling about 4 people into the integration or into the implementation process, and then backfilling just a few of those positions. And then focused project management, both from an HR and payroll perspective, and obviously our vendor, Day 9. We were very close with our client partner, and it was constant communication with me to really make sure that there was no breakdown or that we could break down any of those barriers and escalate issues as needed. So it was that partnership and that relationship we formed with Day 9 that really brought us to the success that we see today. And due to the challenges of staffing for Huntley Hospital, we really needed to schedule many months in advance. And so we identified that early on in the process, and Day 9 was very accommodating to that as well. So what does our future hold? We are currently in exploring phase 2, and that is the talent and performance module as well as advanced compensation. And we are specifically looking at putting in a physician compensation model. Phase 3 would be recruiting. As I mentioned, one of the things that we identified early on is that we wanted one single platform, and that was really important for us. So recruiting is obviously one of those modules we want to put in place. And also, in the midst of this implementation, we actually signed a letter of intent to merge with Northwestern. And we hope to close in that process by the end of this year or early next year. So again, supporting that future partnership. And now I will turn it back to Mike.
Thanks, Bernie. Really appreciate that update and look forward to the Q&A session. So now I'd just like to give a real brief Day 9 healthcare practice overview, and then we'll jump straight into Q&A. So as I mentioned earlier, we are focused on the healthcare provider space. We're one of 5 partners that Workday has in the healthcare provider space. We are the only one that's 100% Workday focused. So it's all we do. We've been doing Workday since 2009. We're very proud of our track record of success in creating happy customers like Centegra Health and Bernie. So we value and appreciate those relationships. So we've developed over the 7 years really deep Workday expertise, and because of now the involvement in the healthcare provider industry with quite a few deployments under our belt, we've really developed that specific tie-in of the Workday technology and the deployment methodology and process along with the industry specifics. So we can bring change management templates, we can bring pre-built analytics reports and dashboards. We've built migration tools to automate the migration process for customers coming from Lawson, coming from PeopleSoft, which are typically the 2 we see in the industry. So we've built tools to automate that process. We know as Bernie mentioned, the integrations that are minimally required to transition to Workday. And we've also started working on the licensing and renewal management and that whole part of the industry. So a lot of very specific industry-related capability and solutions that we bring to the table. And you see some of the other providers that we have, and also work with a number of other manufacturers and pharmaceutical companies in the industry as well. So we can bring that deep Workday experience and expertise along with the industry knowledge now to help you get on time, on budget deployment and get the business results that you're looking for. So thanks again, Bernie, for joining us. We appreciate the opportunity and love having you as a Day 9 and Workday customer. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam to lead the Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Mike and Bernie. So there's a Q&A box on the bottom left hand of your screen. Please feel free to enter in any questions that you might have for either Centegra or Day 9. And we are starting to get some questions in. All right, so the first question that I have here is for Bernie. So many of the challenges you faced likely existed for some time. Why did Centegra decide to prioritize this project now?
As we've gone through this journey, we actually went through, and this third time is a charm. We started the RFP process twice prior, and because of the implementation of electronic medical records, we were actually put on hold the last time. And the last time, the third time that we were actually successful, we were in contention with our new system for our physician office practice in their electronic medical record. So we were in competition with them, but luckily we were a little bit further ahead on the RFP process, and so we were able to really slide through and get the approval from the organization at that time. The other component, obviously, the reason that we wanted to prioritize is that we wanted to get it ahead of the opening of Centegra Huntley Hospital, and really get that process going, especially with the amount of associates that we were hiring and will be hiring in the next few months.
Excellent. And in your selection process, did you look at multiple vendors before deciding on Workday? And
yes,
as a follow-up to that, I'm sorry, there's one other follow-up to that. Whether you handled that evaluation process internally or if you used a partner for selection.
Okay, so I'll answer the first part. Yes, we did look at multiple vendors. Many years ago when we started the evaluation the first time, we looked at the entire spectrum of different vendors and really started to zero in on some of the technology and what was going to take us into the future. We did look at cloud technology early on, and we did look at Lawson as well as PeopleSoft, and obviously chose Workday. And then the second component, you said the evaluation process. That we did not utilize a partner necessarily. We did the process internally with the assistance of Dell Services. As I said, they are our outsourced partner, and we utilized them through this process. They were very instrumental in really trying to narrow down the amount of demos that we were doing and really help us identify those three partners that will actually meet our business needs. So yes, we did do it internally.
Okay, excellent. On a related topic, prior to kicking off your project, how much time was spent doing process improvement re-engineering in preparation for the Workday deployment?
I would say that we used, prior to the implementation or the use of Day 9, we did not do many changes except through the discovery and design process. And that was a challenging component, again, because we were not utilizing manager self-service. It was a different framework for our associates or our HR staff to think about it differently. And so many of the discovery and design sessions with the help of Day 9 kind of pushing back and saying, well, is that the way that you want to do it? Because you don't want to continue to create the same system that you had and all the challenges that went along with it. And do we need to really push back a little bit? So my directors were part of that discovery and design process and really looked at it very differently and asked the very tough questions. So through that process, we were able to really improve the flow of business processes. And we are continuously tweaking, and that's really the beauty of Workday, is that it is configurable. I would say within the first 2 days after go live, we had a business process that everyone was kind of scratching their head and saying, I'm not quite sure why we said to do it that way, but we were able to turn off that business process so that it was an example of it going up to an executive approval that wasn't necessary. But because we've done it in the past that way, we continued to build that process, but then obviously eliminated that from future. So we were able to configure it, and stop that business process immediately without any intervention from IT. We did it on our own from the HR department.
Excellent. Yeah, so I'm going to provide some additional commentary from a Workday perspective. I think a lot of organizations that are considering a new ERP project oftentimes feel that they have to get their business processes perfect before deployment because they're used to a system where you're effectively pouring concrete on your business processes once you go live. And with Workday, as exactly what you mentioned, Bernie, you're able to continually update business processes through the business process framework without IT support, without recoding anything. It's simply business logic. So that's a fantastic example of that. Going down, we're getting more questions in. Were there other systems that you were able to turn off with Workday?
We were able to turn off our benefits enrollment process. So that was key for us. We will be turning off additional processes. As I mentioned, the recruitment module would be a future. So there are a number of different things that we will be turning off with the performance management as well. So yes, that is definitely in the future. But we did immediately turn off our benefits enrollment process.
Okay. And on a related note, a question came in if Centegra is also using financials and supply chain modules.
And we are not. We are currently just using the human resource and payroll functions,
okay.
HCM payroll.
And on a follow-up to that question, on the license and certification tracking, does Workday provide notifications to the team regarding expiring licenses? Or perhaps you could talk a bit more about how you're leveraging Workday for the licenses.
So as I mentioned with the magnet redesignation and obviously ongoing reporting of to the component of licenses and certifications, we were loading up. So our old system did utilize licenses, only licenses. We have 2 other programs that actually manage the certification process. So one is Excel, and the other is a payroll system that we utilize. So certifications are split between those 2 systems. Our licenses were within Infinium. We were able to transfer those over, and there are business processes and notifications that go out to the leadership team. First to the associate, notifying that their license is about to expire, and then in specific intervals that will go to the associates as well as the leader, and obviously escalate from there. And in our process, we do suspend people immediately if they do not renew their license. And the same thing will hold true with our certification. We're in the process. We've already loaded up many of the certifications from both of those systems. They're in our test system, and we're just wrapping it up and hopefully unveiling it within the next 30 days, if not sooner. And as I said, the nursing team really wanted to have one source of truth, and currently it's being maintained by the leadership team, each individual nursing leader, as well as the other professions too.
Perfect. And as also a follow-up to that, from a Workday perspective, we're very happy to welcome Centegra as another magnet certified institution. We have several others that leverage Workday for the magnet process, including Christiana Care, Rochester Regional, Ochsner, the Cleveland Clinic, John Muir Health, and several others that are all running Workday for their HCM. Okay, a question about your Workday mobile. Have you deployed Workday's mobile functionality to your workforce?
Yes, we did. And that was definitely one that was sought after. Many of the calls that we received the first few days really revolved around getting mobile activity. As I mentioned, we were doing town hall meetings shortly after the go live. And it was interesting to really talk about the mobile capabilities, and a few individuals that went back up to their units and started talking about the mobile capabilities. And then quickly the team got on board and said, hey, if you're doing that, can you help me put my mobile together and put that application on there? So we did see some great success. We're right now above 30%. and we do have a strategy to really keep deploying those mobile applications. I will tell you that the leadership team embraced it immediately. If I look at the statistics, I will tell you that most of my leadership team has it on their app. So Workday is deployed from a leadership perspective. And I will give you actually one example. I had an email or a text from an executive asking for a salary and a salary range. And actually it took me about a second, and I started going into Workday on my mobile, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm going to send him a text saying, not to be disrespectful, but I'm not going to give you the information. You have that information on your Workday mobile application. And quickly response was, thank you so much. We need to get used to this new process. And was very grateful. And again, 24/7 access, not waiting for an HR person to provide them that data. So that was definitely one that he spoke of within the leadership team.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, you mentioned a couple of times about a new hospital opening. So what impact did the opening of your new hospital have in how you set up and configured Workday?
With the 500 associates, some of those individuals were transfers, some of those were external hires, and the potential of 1,000 individuals within the next year in total for that hospital. We needed to look at our position management process because those individuals were coming across 3 hospitals. What did that look like? We wanted one source of truth for our requisition management as well. And our leaders really appreciate going into one system, logging into Workday, and being able to create their requisitions in Workday. And then obviously through that, we were able to implement the position management process. In our previous system, the capabilities were very limited to be able to do that. So we really appreciate the position management piece of it, especially as a growing organization and being able to maintain how many individuals are in specific units and how we're going to ramp up with the hospital and so forth.
Excellent. Okay, a couple that are very similar. So now that you're live on Workday, what is your ongoing support model in terms of either people or other organizations that help support your Workday deployment?
Okay, great question. We are in the contract, 6-month contract with maintenance for Day 9 with Day 9, and we are in the process of defining the roles within HR as well as the roles within payroll and also the IT. So we're right now in the stabilization period and really looking at what do we need from an HR perspective. And many of those HRIS individuals will take on additional responsibilities. We will be looking at IT resources as well from Dell Services. We are training some additional individuals on the IT side as well. And then payroll. We are looking at potentially an additional resource there to hopefully build expertise within the Workday component. So we haven't identified that we're adding any FTEs at this point, except for potentially payroll, but that was actually a replacement position, so we'll probably look at a replacement there. But at this point, we're really trying to redefine the roles within HRIS, but no additional FTEs added.
Okay, excellent. And on a related note, but kind of going back to your deployment, did the HR IT team take on the configuration of Workday, or was there a partnership with the the broader IT organization?
With the implementation
so
of the
with the deployment. Yeah, go ahead.
We actually decided most of the design and so forth was either HR or payroll. The only thing that we really had IT support on was the integrations piece and how we were going to continue to function with the support of integrations. As many of you on the HR side realize that you don't change vendors very often, so we don't seem to need their support as much as we previously did, because anytime that you needed to make a change to the system, it was always trying to obtain some IT resources on that side. And because we're able to configure everything on our own, it's much easier. Really, the only support they're providing us is on the integration side. All the upgrades and so forth will be conducted through the HRIS team. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, I think so. All right, so a couple of questions in terms of what type of advice would you give to somebody who's just starting to look at Workday or look at this process?
I think first and foremost is to identify what your business needs are, and also to look at it from a resource component and the return on investment. That was key for us, and it was in partnership with the IT and the Dell resources that we had that we were able to really create that business need, what were the business needs, and then also how do you obtain that return on investment. So that was key for us moving forward.
Excellent. And from your perspective, what's been the greatest benefit to the organization in terms of deploying Workday, and how do you envision leveraging Workday and the analytical capabilities moving forward?
I think the first and foremost was accessibility to data. One of the things I heard first week from the leaders was that there's accountability from an associate's perspective. We also deployed the time off request within Workday. That was a great feature for both our associates as well as our leader. Again, it was all paper forms and a lot of tracking of when PTO was being captured and time off was being captured. So that was a quick win on our part. The organizational charts that are within Workday was very well received as well. We utilize it as a resource. Associates are utilizing it as a resource. And again, a lot of mobile capabilities there. You see people popping onto their Workday app within meetings as well. And then I think as we move forward, we obviously want to be able to implement some of those features moving forward with our compensation model, physician comp as well. We have not found a system to be able to do that, and we're very hopeful in being able to develop that system within Workday. In conversations with Day 9, I think there's a great possibility that we'll be able to put most of that information, if not all of that information, within Workday. So that was another key thing that we're hoping to leverage. And as I said, licenses and certifications were clearly a big win from the nursing perspective as well.
Okay, excellent. A couple of questions with regards to ongoing support. So specifically, what role does IT as well as Day 9 play in ongoing support for your deployment? And then on a kind of related topic, if you could just elaborate on the your comment before about IT support versus HR support for the system in terms of how much IT is continuing to support you after go live.
Okay. As I mentioned, the IT support is really focused more on the integration side. We utilized IT a great deal when we wanted to change things within the system. Within Infinium, we had a lot of customization, and I'll call it customization versus configuration because we had to implement a lot of fixes along the way. So we were very dependent on IT. We were very dependent on IT for upgrades. So we needed to schedule any types of upgrades as we normally do on a year-end basis. There was always some type of upgrade that we needed to implement. We were working with not only the payroll department, HR department, and also IT in being able to schedule that and what worked within the organization and the focus within the organization. So we're heavily dependent on that. Day 9 is really helping us support moving forward, making sure that we are utilizing the system, that we are utilizing it effectively, and any types of knowledge transfer to the IT side. As I said, what our lessons learned were that we wanted to get the IT training completed early on in the process. And we are actually doing a knowledge transfer and continuing that advanced training piece of it so that Day 9 can provide that knowledge during this maintenance contract of 6 months, but really IT will pick up from that point on. So it's really focused in on the integrations piece. And as I hope will be the case, as has been in the case with new vendors and so forth, we'll see an integration change maybe once or twice. If there's any types of fixes that we need to do within that 6 months, then we'll turn to Day 9 and we'll be able to source them or utilize them as a resource through that process.
Fantastic. All right, I think we've hit all of the questions. If anybody has any remaining questions, I'd ask you to enter it into the chat box right now. All right, looks like nothing else is coming through at the moment. Bernie, thank you so much for your time. This was a fantastic story. Mike, thank you as well. Wonderful job deploying a healthcare provider in 7 months, which is fantastic. Very, very happy to have you in the community, Bernie. Very happy to have you as a partner, Mike. And we look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. So thank you, everybody, for attending. A recording will be posted very shortly. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Take care.